In some recent discussions, someone asked me, does it mean someone is more intelligent if they can pick up or grasp something very, very quickly, or enjoy something more completely, more easily, and faster? Many people think that the ability to pick something up, learn it, or to enjoy something like even a symphony or an opera or something like that is a sign of native intelligence. But is it really? Well, I'm glad you asked. I would argue there is another possibility here, that people who grasp things more quickly aren't necessarily more or less intelligent, but rather that they have intentionally built a mental map of the space. What is a mental map? What do I mean when I say build a mental map? Well, a mental map is like a physical map. It points out or it locates the important anchors and anchor points in the space. Just like I have a physical map and I say this is a landmark, the big chicken, the mall, whatever it is, I have a mental map. These are the big things in this mental space. It also points out or understands or pulls together the connections between those things. To get from the mall to the big chicken, I do this, or this highway takes me from here to there, from this city to that city, whatever it is. So there are connectors between these anchor points. And it also can put together or it contains the anchor points in terms of what they do or how they operate. What are the possibilities? There are these 5 stores at the mall. The restaurant at the Big Chicken sells these kinds of food, whatever it happens to be. So, learning how to build and use mental maps is a critically important part of being able to build intelligence or to understand things quickly. This is part of what I would consider to be the larger space of intellectual virtue. Now, for instance, in network engineering, we might say the important anchor points are things like, how does a protocol transport things? How does a protocol handle errors and flow control problems? How does the control plane or a control plane handle addressing and mapping addressing? How does a control plane deal with loop-free paths? How does it calculate those things? By the way, you might have noticed I just repeated the RENA model, or the extended version of the RENA model I like to call the 4 things model. This is not accidental because these models are, in fact, mental maps over these spaces. If you can learn the maps, if you can build the mental maps, and then learn how to map new problems into your existing mental map, you can say, well, I want to get chicken and I want to go to the handbag store. That means the big chicken in the mall. And I know how to get there so I can actually plan out an itinerary based on knowing what it is I want to get done. If I can do that, I can learn things very quickly and I can figure out how an existing network or program, piece of software works fairly quickly. Now, this doesn't just apply to technology. I've been using the big chicken and all this other stuff, but look, there are other places where this becomes very important. For instance, when I was working through a degree in philosophy, the first thing my major professor said is, you are going to learn the basic concepts of philosophy. What are the categories of the philosophical world? Epistemology, ontology, hermeneutics, these kinds of things, and what categories live under what other categories. And to build the connectors, my professor said, you're going to learn the history of philosophy. You're going to learn how this one school developed into that school by pushback and agreement and etc. And that's going to give you the connectors between the nodes in this mental map. So this has become extraordinarily important to me in my learning style, is building these mental maps, being very intentional about the shape of my knowledge and how that works within mental maps. And by the way, the philosophy example is even better because how do I learn the mental map for networking? I can go back and learn networking history. A lot of people don't like to deal with networking history. Fact is, it's a very good way to pick up a mental map of the networking space. So long as you're looking at broad terms, understanding what problems were trying to be solved, what the pushback was, what the problem was with the existing technologies, this is a really good way to build a mental map. So the importance of mental maps cannot be overstated in understanding the speed at which you understand and learn new things. Build your mental maps up. Build up your ability to build mental maps. Again, it's a really important part of intellectual virtue.